voices in journalism is what makes stories of what's happening in our community so impactful. And 360 Journalism, this program through the University of St. Thomas, helps high school journalists amplify their voice and prepare for a future in journalism. Here at Fox 9, we're part of that program. And this morning, we share with you a story by a recent Irondale High School grad, Aaliyah Demtry.
1, 2, 3! The faces and voices at the Minnesota State Capitol on June 2nd were young.
Justice for George Floyd.
Justice for George Floyd.
Black Lives Matter, and we want to show that.
Black Lives! Instead of planning summer vacation, these Minnesota high schoolers plan to fight for justice for George Floyd. George Floyd's death and the protests hit home for Minneapolis residents, like Abdul Omari. He advises businesses on equity issues to create a better future for Minnesota's youth of color.
Because my phone has not stopped ringing since it happened, and it's all of a sudden people care about racism.
As protests against racism spread nationwide, looting began and violent clashes with police left hundreds of people wounded. Omari says that the danger isn't only physical, but mental, especially for youth.
I think that it'll stay with people for a very long time, and we as a community need to continue to think about how we are more accepting of some of the mental health impacts that we have.
And those impacts only weigh heavier because of COVID-19.
We're in the middle of a global pandemic that physically is impacting Black and brown people at significantly higher numbers than white people.
Despite that, and the physical and mental health risks, young activists weren't stopped from making their voices heard.
But the reality is, if we're actually going to dismantle the systemic oppression and racism, everybody needs to be a part of it. I am excited and I am energized by youth involvement.
From 360 Journalism, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Center of Prevention, and the Fly Subject, I'm Aaliyah Demtry in Minneapolis.
Yeah. Now, it's so cool to see a young journalist just out of high school putting together a story as impactful as that. And joining us this morning to talk about her experience in the 360 program is Aaliyah Demtry herself. Aaliyah, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
So, like so much this year, this program kind of had to be reimagined a bit because of the pandemic. So I understand you did a lot of your work online, but tell us what this program looked like for you.
Well, we were assigned a project to do basically based on racism as a public health issue, and everything was online, so I was a little bit worried going into everything, but it really let me know that journalism is something that I want to pursue because we had a lot of independent work time. I couldn't meet one-on-one with my mentors or 360 staff, so I really had to do everything on my own, and it really showed me that I was actually passionate about it because I stuck to it and I finished it all.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was online, but a lot of it was in person. The story that we just showed, you shot yourself using your cell phone, got all of that video, got out there to experience it all. Tell me about some of the big kind of takeaways or things that you learned from this experience.
Yeah, so me and my dad, we went out to mostly all the protests during the whole murder of George Floyd. It was a really great experience to be out there and get a lot of people's voices heard that are usually not heard, and from actually a person that can relate to their same experiences. I actually felt like what a actual reporter goes through, being tear gassed and seeing actual rubber bullets. It was a lot went through my mind going through that, especially with my dad. It was a good bonding time, and to go through that with him, it felt really good, especially to be a part of history in a time like this.
Oh, absolutely. Part of history during a time like this. Journalism especially is so important right now. When you were out there and you were gathering the story, what are some things that were maybe unexpected about journalism, about broadcast that you didn't know before that surprised you during this experience?
People really like to be on camera. Just me walking around with the camera and the microphone in my hand, a lot of people came up to me and asked me themselves, did they want to be interviewed? I didn't really have to ask a lot of people. A lot of people really wanted their voices to be heard, and they were really excited to see, especially a young Black female out there with her father, getting all this footage. It was actually really surprising to them. So I would actually do this all over again.
Oh, that's so great to hear, Aaliyah. I hope you have a chance to do this over and over and over again as you continue with your career in journalism, and we're wishing you all of the best of luck. We can't wait to see where your career takes you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing your story with us this morning, Aaliyah. Really cool stuff. That's the 360 journalism program through the University of St. Thomas.